Hello, guys, and welcome to yet another episode of VIPs in Action Village Innovative Perinatal Support in Action, brought to you in collaboration with Rose Breastfeeding here in the Atlanta metro area and JMM Health Solutions. I'm Dr. Joanne Michelle Martin, the owner of JMM Health Solutions and a pelvic floor physical therapist, and I'm bringing to you all these amazing individuals who happen to be recipients of the Rose grant, VIP cohort grant, to help fuel innovation, to help fuel support within different perinatal spheres in helping moms and kids and families within communities throughout this COVID pandemic. So today, I'm so blessed to have with me Miss Tamara Hawkins. She is a nurse practitioner as well as a certified lactation consultant in the New York metro area. Um, Tamala, her purpose is supporting people in getting pregnant, staying pregnant, having an empowered birth, reaching their infant feeding goals using functional medicine, traditional wisdom, and empathy. So, without further ado, guys, I would love to introduce you to Miss Tamara Hawkins. Hey, Tamara, welcome to the show. How are you doing?
Well, thank you for that welcome. That was awesome.
Thank you. Well, thank you for coming here. Thank you for joining us. Tell us a little bit more about you, where you're at, what you do to support moms and families within your community.
Primarily, I am a lactation consultant. That's where my focus has been for the past at least 10 years. My background is that of a maternal health child nurse. And then I became a family nurse practitioner so that I really wanted to open up a private practice. Now, I wanted to accept insurance and serve people, be able to get the women the help that they needed around breastfeeding, because where I'm located, I'm in the New York City area, getting lactation help support was really non-existent unless you got a little bit of help from WIC, a little bit of help from the Leche League, or paid out a ton of money out of your pocket for a private practice lactation consultant do a house call. And so I intentionally became a nurse practitioner to accept insurance and to open up a practice, hoping that a lot of people would be able to get that type of care and service. And that turned out to be a little different than what I envisioned. So, being able to receive the grant funds to do this type of work, but to also focus it in on Black women helps me serve the community. But I would imagine that Mama Bug didn't know that when this grant was coming out that it would be saving me too.
Mhm.
So that was a big thing, because during this whole pandemic, just having to slow down and take a look to see how was this work serving people. The work was serving people, but I felt like I was losing myself doing the work under insurance, because I felt like it was just insurance work. All I'm doing is working for the insurance. But because when you're in that medical model and the insurance has rules, how long the appointment is, how much they're going to pay you, if they're going to pay you, what you need to chart, doing all that stuff, it really made me feel like I'm losing that touch of being with my clients, because while I'm in an appointment or after the appointment, it's another 30 minutes or so of
Mhm.
charting. And it really took away from the passion that I had to actually do the work and give the information. So by having this grant, it brought all the pleasure back to this work and has allowed me to reach further out deep into the community without having the blockage of, well, I don't accept your insurance, or this insurance has this thing, or you need to get pre-approved for this and that. And it just has made being a healthcare provider so much easier.
Mhm. I hear you. You know, one of the things that I think people, individuals, don't recognize is the trouble and the stress that, being an in-network provider can bring. And oftentimes people will say, well, why don't you take insurance? And they get mad at providers who don't. I mean, I've gone through this myself with my own practice, but people will get mad to me. Why don't you take insurance? You guys, I have insurance. I should be able to use it. You should be. You should be. But the reality of it is that you probably can't. And you may go to a specific practice, like you said, but now you as a professional can't practice the way that you want to practice. You can't practice the way these women need to be served. Now you are kind of tethered to the insurance. They're like, well, you can only see them for 30 minutes and we'll only pay you. So even if you see them longer, we don't pay you. And you can only do this and we can only use these codes. So if they're coming in with this, that really doesn't matter because we're only paying for this. And it's all these little things that people don't realize.
Or if they're like, well, we want to see your charts. And if you don't chart one little thing that they're looking for, oh, we want our money back.
Mm-hmm. We're not paying.
Oh, they changed the insurance. Oh, they didn't tell you? That's not our business. We want our money back. It's all this little stuff where you're like, oh my gosh.
It's always a constant challenge and struggle. And I don't think enough people know that yes, they have insurance, but they don't understand. And so when I talk to clinicians that practice outside of the insurance model, which I absolutely love having these conversations, because I feel like it helps to educate the public. When you have a provider who doesn't practice, who's not tethered to that insurance model, it doesn't mean that your insurance won't pay or reimburse you. I mean, that's what super bills are for. And that's
Yeah.
something that a provider can give to you for you to submit to your insurance company so that you can either A, be reimbursed if your deductible is met, or B, have it be credited to your deductible. But they get to spend time with you. One, they get to utilize their skills that they were trained for. I mean, being a nurse practitioner is no easy feat. That's a lot of school. That's a
It's
lot
a
of school.
lot of school.
And it's like, and you've got all these skills that you want to bless people with, but you can't do it when you're in that confined, space of practice within an insurance-based model. So I love that you mentioned that because I feel like more people need to be mindful of that and need to be aware of it. And the other thing I will tell people, listen, sometimes it's if you find a great practitioner, even if they don't take your insurance, you have to kind of consider, do I want to go to somebody who is amazing? Or do I want to just sit around and look for somebody who takes my insurance, who may or may not be amazing? I don't know. I don't know. You're going to have to pick pick what it is you want. So where you're located in the metro area, you guys were hit tremendously hard with, during this COVID pandemic. I mean, you were shut down before everybody else was shut down. You guys were really feeling it. How were you able to pivot? I'm imagining that you saw a lot of people in person prior to the onslaught of COVID. How were you able to pivot? How were you able to reach families, to reach mothers, to make sure that the babies were nursing the way that they needed to make sure that they weren't having breastfeeding complications? What all were you doing to kind of make sure that your people were still being taken care of?
Went immediately to Zoom.
Mm-hmm.
And was just hoping that the insurance company was going to pay for it because wasn't any notifications of whether they were or what special things you need to do to bill. But yeah, for a couple of weeks, well, first of all, you got to deal with having COVID yourself, right? And then canceling like 2-3 weeks of appointments and then thinking, oh, well, how are we going to get this done? Okay, we just going to do it on Zoom. And that's what happened. And I was even busier in telehealth than being in the office because I had an office at that time and it worked great. And so I had that piece. And then I started a free, breastfeeding group, which worked well. So everything pretty much just transitioned to Zoom, but then it became like, what the heck, insurance companies? And just also feeling overwhelmed in the panic, having my own anxiety of what's happening in the world. I'm feeling this stress of just running the practice. And in therapy, I had to kind of I had to come to Jesus moment. Like, how am I taking care of myself?
Mm-hmm.
I'm not only in the role of lactation consultant, but I'm therapist, marriage therapist. I'm consulting on pediatric stuff. I'm talking to you about thyroid health, gut health, all this stuff. And I had to like
Mm-hmm.
just bring it back because one of my one of my goals or my desires was to study functional medicine. And as I felt myself going down, trying to lift everyone else, I said, oh, this is it. So almost at the exact moment when I felt like I needed to step away from the insurance model and study functional medicine, the grant opportunity came in. So I was like, what better opportunity than this to allow me to still serve women? But now I'm going to have all this other information about functional health after we are coming off of, well, we're still in it, the fight about Black Mamas Matters and, Black women dying in pregnancy and childbirth. What is the missing piece? Why are we expiring from things that other people who are not Black are surviving?
Mm-hmm.
And in my own health journey, just doing the search and wanting to figure out more and more information, I learned about functional medicine, and I had an experience with an endocrinologist around that same time, which pissed me off. I was so mad. There was no connection at all. It was an in-office visit, but the whole time just in the computer, asking me questions, and then gets up and then she hands me a handout. She's like, here, do this. And I'm like, do you not understand I'm a person in his office? Like, what?
My name.
Like, right. You haven't even, she literally didn't ask me anything. She asked me nothing about myself. She didn't know that I was studying functional medicine. She didn't know I was a nurse practitioner. She didn't know anything. And so I was like, this is what we go through all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'm a healthcare provider. What about the teenagers? What about the women who have no medical knowledge? And I was like, okay, this is the opportunity. Like, I have all of this information. Y'all got to know it. Y'all got to know it. I got to share it. I have to share it. And so that's what I'm bringing to my cohort. Like, yes, we are talking about regular pregnancy stuff, but then I want to talk to everyone about nutrition. What are you going to do to help to reduce your risk of gestational diabetes? What about GBS? How are you taking care of your gut health, the gut health of your baby? What are those things that you can do right now to support your baby reducing the risk of asthma and allergies and eczema, all of that stuff? So that's the little piece that I'm bringing into our group.
That is amazing. That is amazing. And there are not enough functional medicine providers out there.
Mm-hmm.
There's certainly not. I tell people all the time there's a Western model, which is great. Medicine is great, but medicine is not preventative. Medicine is reactive.
Right.
And we need to kind of, that's over here, but we really want to be over here where we can prevent a lot of stuff before we have to get to this reactive portion where, all right, well, you've already got it. So now we got to give you this to treat it. There's so much of the things that people endure that can be prevented. And even when we talk about pregnancy, like you mentioned, gestational diabetes, just proper nutrition during pregnancy, proper nutrition in the postpartum period is key. And you mentioned something about the thyroid before. Postpartum thyroiditis is very real
Yeah.
and can mimic some of the symptoms of, postpartum anxiety, postpartum depression. And it's something that's not typically checked for.
Right.
So, making sure that you are taking care of yourself, not just physically, but from a nutrition perspective, as a mom, as a new mom, is vital. So, so vital. I'm so glad that you mentioned that, because I
Yeah.
think that that's information that people need to hear. And I'm so glad that you're doing this, because we need to spread your message far and wide. Everybody needs to be coming to you now. We can help mamas. So I'm so, so happy for that. So you pivoted to Zoom, realized the insurance companies were still a hot mess.
Hot mess.
Hot mess, not really doing anything, but you know what? We're on a mission. We will forge on. We got the grant, and you were able to start seeing moms, and doing the group work. Where are your members coming from within the group? Are they just in the metro area? Are they outside of New York? Where are they coming from?
No, I have members from Arizona and actually I have two members that are in the group from Arizona, a member that's from Wisconsin. There's a member who she's in Virginia as well.
Mhm.
So it definitely is spread out.
Mhm. And I love that, because that's one of the things, I think one of the fears with transitioning to virtual is people were like, well, how are people going to know me? How am I going to get this information to people? And what people realize is that you're not just getting information now to your immediate geographic area. Now you have the potential to reach people even outside of the country. You have potential to reach people far and wide, which is amazing. Um, so outside of what you're doing now with the breastfeeding group, have you completed all the functional medicine information and education and whatnot?
No, I'm starting to weave it in. So going forward, we're having just a childbirth ed series. So I actually brought in two people to help me, which is fabulous. Lynette Freeman, who is a doula, and Charlene Agbini, who is a doula and a lactation counselor who helped me run the group. So we have 2 sessions a week. On Sunday evenings, we have the prenatal childbirth function, and Wednesday evenings, we have a breastfeeding support group. So throughout the sessions, the functional medicine tips and tools are weaved in. And a few weeks ago, I did like a series on gut health, which came up because one of the moms was talking about a situation that she had where she had a real intense infection called C. diff in her gut. And so that set us off to talk about gut health. And so we had a series where we talked about probiotics and food to eat and the GBS testing and all that stuff that went along with it, and pivoted into nutrition. And now we're pivoting into just making sure we talk about the whole birth experience.
Mhm. That's amazing. Yep. Gut's important. A lot of issues will start from the gut, and we think it's something else, but it's really, if we can really make sure that gut health is priority, we can mitigate a lot of things that happen to us, health wise. What other plans do you have, or where do you see all these different things now that have occurred in the last, let's say, year, taking you over the next several months and years? Now that we've integrated Zoom, now that we've got the groups up and running, what do you envision for your practice?
Well, I definitely know telehealth is the way to go. Some, especially when it just comes to education, right?
Mhm.
A lot of these things can happen where it makes it accessible. It's so much easier to join in the most part. Some people may not have Wi-Fi or a phone with a camera on it, but for the most part, with some financial support, it makes it more accessible to families than actually being outside of their home taking a class. I think also with the telehealth, you have more time to expand on topics and to actually hear people's stories. I wish I would have saved this quote. There was a quote that said something about the reason why modern medicine is not working is because it doesn't allow for a person's story.
Mhm.
And in these sessions, we can have it as short and as long as we want. We can expand them to weeks at a time, and then they're recorded. And then if you can't attend live, well, then you can just watch it any time of the day. And that's what really has been so special about being able to do everything online. Now, even when I've seen families that have the worst case of sore, cracked nipples, baby isn't latching, with very clear instructions and demonstration with props, dolls, breasts, that mom was able to latch the baby on and be in comfort. So when there's these concerns about either transferring COVID, myself, like being a nurse and working in different places, or being in someone's home and go from place to place to place, having this as an option, I think is a marvel in our time. And as far as my practice is definitely going to be based a lot around nutrition. And a big thing that a lot of moms don't realize is if they're concerned about something in their baby, they have to rewind and look back into themselves health wise, because we have to heal the mother to heal the baby.
Mhm.
And so if I say this baby needs X, Y, and Z because they have reflux, or something is going on and they have like tracheomalacia, or there's a tongue tie, or whatever could be bothering that baby, very often I have to start with the mom, and it's stress response, like you mentioned, anxiety, depression. Those things need to be addressed,
Mhm.
because if she is overwhelmed from all the other kids, the job, whatever's going on in her life, that's going to affect the whole hormonal cascade, and that can affect her gut
Mhm.
health, her gut microbiota, and changing everything that the baby is experiencing. And it's not to say I don't want anyone to watch this and think like, oh my God, I shouldn't breastfeed because then I have all of this responsibility on myself. We know above any and everything else, breast milk is always going to be the best thing for your baby. But this is a perfect time to slow down just a little bit to say, how can I make myself more
Mhm.
healthier, so that down the road my whole entire family is going to have that foundation. And so having just skills to understand how stress affects hormones and how that affects the immune system and the reproductive system and everything else is something that I really want to get out to the community.
I love that. I absolutely love that. I love the fact that you're so holistic in your approach.
Thank
And that's a beautiful thing. And oh my God, I wish more nurses, I wish more clinicians would take that approach. But anyone who's listening to this, moms, if you're listening, it's all about the continuum. It's all about the continuum. And when you can take care of you, you know it promotes a better outcome for your baby as well, health wise. So important. So moving forward in with the nutritional programs and whatnot, I forgot to mention, I think, what was I about to ask? Within your immediate area, did you notice that there was an issue with infrastructure where you haven't? I mean, you're in the metro area, so most people would assume, okay, it's a city, everybody should have internet. What did you find any challenges in switching to Zoom with clients not having access to internet?
No, most people had a smartphone and access to the internet. Sometimes the internet service may not be the best. Sometimes they would only be able to come on the Zoom for a short period of time. So that might, like the plans that they have. So it could be people with like limited budgets to stay on an hour or an hour and a half Zoom call, because that's eating up the minutes for their service. So that was a big thing. But in the most part, most of the people that I worked with had some type of service, because they can also just use their cellular service, but it was the amount of credits and things that they had on their phone.
Hmm. That's awesome. You mentioned that you were doing a 10-day self revival to walk people through self care exercises and add to their health journey. Tell us a little bit about that. And is this something that you're doing with clients in general, just the pregnant moms, or who are you doing this with?
Everyone is welcome to join it. We actually started it today, and it's a very smooth, safe, simple introduction to the stress survival mechanism and certain things that you can do to help to calm down the nervous system. It really is a resetting of the circadian rhythm,
Mhm.
making sure that your body is able to sleep, get good quality sleep, get enough sleep, wake up during the day, and instead of rushing and like having already an adrenaline rush in your system, or you're on your phone, taking a little bit of a slowdown and maybe just praying or breathing or meditating for 5 minutes during that time, taking more breaks during the day, which is to soothe what's called your ultradian rhythm. So you have periods that you need to like work during the day, but also take a little break during the day. So multiple small breaks during the day, thinking about what foods you are eating that is going to help to balance your blood, so that balance your blood sugar, so that there's not these multiple crashes of energy coming down during the day, which leads to people grabbing sugary, sweet, caffeinated food, which then just cause spikes of sugar, spikes of insulin, crashing, which then leads to insulin resistance, which then can lead to obesity and diabetes and hypertension, which causes all of us to have these chronic illnesses. But especially within the Black community, we don't just get a little bit of stress, we got a whole lot of stress.
And we got to take on everybody else's.
Right? And we don't just have stress today, we have accumulated stress from our childhood that is just piling up.
Hmm.
And then what happened all throughout 2020 with the riots, with the protesting, with the murders, with everything. And then we look at the TV on January 6th and we're like, what? What's nothing is happening?
Yeah.
So yeah, that's why this 10-day revival, because our system is like, ugh, it's time to just bring it down, because no amount of pill or supplement is going to create health if we don't start with our nervous system.
Hmm. That is so true. And you mentioned a magic word there, sleep. Oh my gosh. How many of you guys are getting a good 8 hours sleep? I know I don't get it every night,
Mm-hmm.
but how many of you are really getting 8 hours sleep? How many of you guys are intentional about your sleep, about shutting it down at a specific time so that you're allowing your body to rest? Because when you're sleeping, your body is essentially in a state of repair. It's like, all right, let's go to work. Let's fix all the stuff that needs to be fixed. Let's get you better so tomorrow is a better day. How many of you are allowing your body to do that? And so we don't oftentimes think about that because we're go, 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 go. There's always something to do, always something to do. And we don't stop to take the time to just slow down, like you said. And I think that that is so, so important. Oh my goodness, you were just totally speaking my language today. So, with regards to all the things you offer, you're offering this 10-day reset, you're offering the breastfeeding classes, you're offering are you offering one-on-one still?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so you're offering one-on-ones. How do people get in touch with you so that they can get all this goodness?
The easiest way is to go to the Instagram page at Stalk and Cradle Classes, because there'll be the links for the Motherhood Lounge, is what our program is called. So it's run through a Facebook group, and we kind of all gather in there. So that's one way. And the 10-day reset, the link is actually on my Facebook page, and that's at Tamara Hawkins _ FNP IBCLC. But my email also is tamara@storkandcradle.com.
Okay. So we will have all that information in the show notes. When you guys listen to this, please, please, please take a moment to head over to Instagram, to shoot her an email. If you have any questions, moms, if you have questions with regards to breastfeeding, with regards to nutrition, these are really, really important things. And we can't think of health as this very unilateral thing. We have to start thinking of health. Maternal health is very holistic because, like Tamara mentioned, we've got so many things to consider. We've got to consider our stress levels, what's happening with our nervous system, our nutrition, our gut health, mindset. There's so physical being, there's so many things to consider that make up this entity that we call health. And so it's very, very important that we reach out to professionals who can really help us to curate this type of environment within our bodies. Make sure that we're ready, in that prenatal period, in that postpartum period, so we can just be the best moms that we can be. So, Tamara, I thank you so, so much for sharing all your wisdom. I think that what you're doing is absolutely amazing. I love that additional functional medicine component and think that that is going to be so huge, and is so needed for so many people. I'll definitely be pointing a whole bunch of people in your direction because, like I said, I think it's amazing. So, thank you so, so much for being a part of this. Thank you for coming on and sharing all this wisdom. Is there anything that you want to leave our viewers, our audience with before we go?
One of the most important things I guess I can share is to trust your intuition and trust what's happening with your body, because you know what you know without even knowing it. So if you feel like something isn't right, but a healthcare provider is looking at a lab and saying, well, nope, your lab is normal,
Mhm.
but you still aren't feeling right, something isn't right. And keep pushing to figure out what it is going on. Because, like you said, modern medicine is made to pick out disease. Something is wrong. But before that, a whole host of stuff is already building up, is already brewing. And that's what your sixth sense, what your body is trying to tell you when you just don't feel well. So keep pushing when you are not feeling well so that you can get the answers you need and you can care for yourself.
I love that. I love that. Well, guys, thank you for joining us again for another episode of VIPs in Action. This was an amazing episode, and I've truly enjoyed having you, Tamara, on with us today. If you guys are watching the show, check out the episodes that came before. I mean, we have had such amazing guests on this show, and we will have so many more. So continue to stay tuned, and keep watching, keep reaching out to these amazing professionals in the perinatal space. Until next time, guys, take care.
Bye. Have a good night.